Welcome to another episode of Tangled Rights. I almost said Sticky Paws for some stupid reason. I'm Justin W. Wilson. This is Shane D. Cox. Esquires. Both of us still somehow haven't gotten our licenses revoked. Because I don't know if you guys can believe this. This is crazy. You sitting down? Shane said something that was factually inaccurate last episode. He got a fact wrong when thinking about a case and talking about it. I can't believe you.
We've done that.
That lady didn't even party. She went to sleep. How dare you, stupid?
I know.
You dumb idiot.
They might not believe this, but we...
Ah!
All the other 60 hours we work in the week are
60?
devoted... Yeah.
You work 60 hours?
I worked like 12 yesterday, at least 12 yesterday.
What the fuck?
I know. Whoa.
I don't know.
At least,
What are we counting work?
I don't know. Whatever.
Okay, whatever. 60 hours.
But
Great.
The time we spend away from our families is not always researching these in great detail.
Yeah, we have
Sorry.
real jobs. Like I'm an attorney that's in court every single day, except for Friday, pretty much every week. He's in court pretty regularly, and he's also sending demands, doing stuff on cases because we're both handling different aspects of our criminal law. So if we do say something wrong, we're sorry. We're sorry.
Okay, let's.
Shane's
not
going to be on a bearskin rug naked saying sorry in front of a fireplace soon. Shout out South Park. That episode was awesome.
Let me just say something.
And then also one last thing. Not legal advice. Consult your attorney. Don't be tools.
Justin's on one today.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. You caught me on a bad day.
So I was just going to say the bar exam, when we take the bar exam, it is all made up facts to try and teach us law. So the questions you get on a bar exam are all entirely made up. So sometimes you need the facts to apply them to the law on the cases that you're really looking at. We were just trying to look at some things on that case last week of, hey, she did this. But to get to the point of she made a voluntary statement and offered evidence willingly. Wow.
Also, it doesn't really matter factually if she went upstairs or went out of the house because it's the same, right? I mean, she's
It
in
can be.
she's in
It
a
could be
different place.
different. Yeah, but that was the point. Yeah,
The point of it is she wasn't where he was.
she left the situation.
She left him.
him.
So, from a factual perspective, if we were to have two cases, Mr. Tryhard, and they both did exactly the same things, but one of them went upstairs and one of them went out and got wasted, guess what? Same result.
Okay, these aren't going to be the same people watching this episode. I
hope that they are.
Almost
I hope
guarantee
it's
it.
that one troll who I'm talking to. I'm only talking to one of you. Everybody else, you're golden. That one guy, though, get effed.
Sorry, we take some time to look into current events, but we are just
We have jobs.
we have big jobs and people counting on us.
Whoa.
Little people,
Big jobs. I don't know about
Big world.
jobs, but regular jobs. We got a job.
regular sized jobs, and people who have allegedly committed crimes who rely on us.
Yep.
And
So protect
people
their liberty.
People that have been injured in some way who rely on us, and we focus on those. So
Don't feed the trolls, Justin.
well, let's get into our first topic and
Yes.
forget about the trolls. Let's give them something else to troll us about.
This one's going to be a very troll-worthy topic. If for anybody who doesn't know, over the weekend there was an assassination attempt on Donald J. Trump, former president of the United States, who's currently, I think, the Republican National Convention confirmed him, didn't they?
Yes, they just did, and
Okay.
he picked a VP. This was at the time of recording. It just happened yesterday.
JD something
Vance.
Vance. Yeah, he's Ohio, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, you got it wrong. I don't know. I don't know. He's a senator from some state. Ohio?
I got it right accidentally. I want to flip the
Gibbity
camera off
toilet,
right now.
Ohio, baby.
The Ohio State University. I don't know why they do that. I think it's funny, but anyway. So yeah, that he got picked. But over the weekend, someone tried to shoot him. They were unsuccessful in shooting him. They shot 3 other people. Really tragic story about that dad. I don't even want to think about it because actually when I read it, it made me like a little misty eyed over the weekend.
I didn't see this, so
Oh, so obviously bullets, if they don't hit their target, they continue on. That's why you have to have a proper backstop when you're shooting so that you don't injure somebody or break property or stuff.
yes.
So the bullets that missed Trump and the one that hit him and continued on hit the people behind him. and one of the people behind him was a 50-year-old dude who had retired as a fire chief, was there with his family, and when the bullet started like coming, he like leaned over onto his daughter to protect her, and he took one in the dome.
Oh man!
And died in front of his wife and child, which is awful.
That's
and
the worst.
I don't know, and it always makes me think of that. And Shane is the more religious one out of the two of us. It always makes me think of that verse. Greater love has no man than he who would lay down his life for his friends. And I hate it because every time I think about it, it makes me very emotional because I think of a lot of things that, I've seen in my life. And it just, yeah.
The many ways he could have died
but
in his job. And then
he did something selfless, which I hope if I'm ever in that situation, I would make the same decision. So hats off to him for
that's amazing.
The kind of a bravery that none of us can guess whether we have or not until you're faced with that situation.
So there were some questions about the potential legal fallout of this case. I don't think that Trump's going to, file a suit against anybody or anything like that. I think it'd be, I'm not a political expert, but it seems like it might be a political suicide.
It'd be counterproductive.
Yeah.
Especially at this point in the game. Now, the interesting thing is there's a statute of limitations and the election's in November. So he could get elected for his final term if he wins, and then bring suit, which is no political suicide at that point because he's capped the well.
Sure.
Right? You can't get anything else out of it.
Sure.
So, because he's done, and they can't get rid of him at that point for suing the Secret Service.
Yeah.
But the question is, can he sue the Secret Service for not being diligent? And in order to look at this, what we need to kind of assess is what does diligence mean? And from a security threat perspective, what we'll do is we'll have Austin put up the picture of the compound. There's like an overview that shows where Trump was sitting and the counter sniper team, and then the roof that the guy got on top of. But the interesting fact that I did not know, and I've watched a lot of takes on this from people who were spec ops or former Secret Service, snipers in Delta, and not dudes that I know, just guys who did this, and they understand threat assessment, and they understand counter sniping and all this. And the interesting thing is that there was nobody on top of the building, and that the security perimeter was set up just this side of the building, where the building that the guy was shot from was somewhere around 130 meters, I believe, if memory serves. If I'm wrong, please don't crucify me. And it does seem a bit strange to me, and I'm not, I was never in any of those kinds of organizations. But from a threat perspective, if you have a clear line of sight in a place where a normal person could shoot, and I say normal person, but this is my experience. Basic Marines, 18-year-olds, spend 9 weeks learning how to shoot, doing all this other stuff. When you leave basic training, boot camp as a Marine, you are able to shoot 500 meters with an AR-15 style rifle, meaning a 5.56 millimeter, which is the same size bullet that he was using. So almost 5 times the distance that this guy shot at a man-sized silhouette. So the idea is you're shooting at a 6-foot man standing up. That's the target is shaped like that. You're not actually shooting at a human. It's just paper to assess your basic qualifications, and that's with open sights, right? This guy's using some kind of optic on the same caliber and 130 meters.
Was he using optics?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
But either way, even if he was using open sights, it wouldn't matter. I mean, like you've got dudes that got a 27 on the ASVAB that are able to shoot that distance accurately.
Really
right?
low. That's a really
very
low ASVAB.
Very low on the ASVAB. So low that they had to get waivers to get into the Marine Corps.
But shooting and intelligence, not always.
They're the same. I think you have to be slightly intelligent to be able to shoot, but you just have to be trainable. The point being, anybody can do this, right? And that means that where they allowed access was way too close.
There's been some videos that came out. Have you seen this?
Yeah, the people
side by side of people trying to point out this shooter
apparently,
and nothing happening for like.
The other thing that I saw is apparently the police. So what it was is there were police from the local police department inside the building, but not on top of it. And the police saw him 26 minutes before walking around looking shady. Because if you look at him,
enough to do a Terry stop.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, what are you doing? You over here conducting some crimes? Anyway, so they see him 26 minutes before they're inside the building he gets on. He somehow gets a ladder up on the building, gets up on top of it, is able then to, but the building is sloped, right? So from where the counter sniper team is, they don't have a clear line of sight. Because even if they can see the top of the building, they can only see the peak. The part that's underneath, you'd theoretically be able to kind of access slowly. But as soon as you poke your head up over that thing, they're going to be able to see you. And the way that it works is each team has a section of their field of fire that they're monitoring. Right? It's not one sniper team for the entire 180 degrees out in front of them.
Sure.
They're taking little bites. And so you have one team that's looking over there, and if their optic is dialed back far enough, meaning that the magnification on it is turned down, so it's most optics will run between 3 and 25 or something like that for a good Leupold scope that's going to give you a really good field of view and it's just a great optic. You dial that thing back down to 3 times magnification. That means 3 times the human magnification. You can see a big swath of your area in front of you. Now, if you turn it up to 25, that narrows it, right? Because you're focusing in. So the real question here is, when they did their security stand down 2, 3, 4 days before, a week before, whatever they did, why did they not address the roof? Because the roof or any elevated position is obviously your danger point.
Who knows?
Right? And then the next question, once we, break down what they did, what they didn't do, why they didn't do it, once the shot happens, this is the interesting thing that I saw that I knew nothing about. And I have some buddies who went into Presidential Guard in the Marine Corps. You see from Marine One and all this stuff, those are Marines, right? That's an actual MOS. You're literally a Presidential Guard. And they were breaking down what they did as what your training as Presidential Guard is. And there's 3 jobs. I think he called it Tucker, Chucker, and something else. The Tucker, whenever someone is hit, their job is to knock the VIP down, get them to cover, right? Get them as low as they can.
Eagle, yeah.
Yeah, put them down below danger, right? And then you immediately pick them up and put them into the up-armored vehicle. The other person, the third guy, I forget the name, what they called it. It's not the real name. It's just something.
Does it start with an F?
It does. It help them memorize it. Their job is to clear the way. Think fullback in a tailback dive. You go straight through the hole, you smash whatever's in front of you, you get that guy to the truck. They didn't do that. There was a lot of photo op stuff going on, which I saw the audio where Trump was saying, hey, let me get my shoes, hold on a second, throwing his hand in the air, whatever. That doesn't matter to them. I know that he's the former president and then he's potentially going to be their boss again. They don't care. Their job is to keep you alive.
I don't
and
know
if you're
what
in their
team
way,
this
they will
is.
run you over.
Yeah, and this isn't we probably have more living former presidents now than ever before, just because of, how old people are. We've had Jimmy Carter still around, right?
He's almost 100.
He's super old.
But he's also in hospce right now, I think.
Yeah. So how many Secret Service teams are there? Is the top team on the current president, or did Trump maintain his team and then there's a new team for Biden?
I know that.
I don't know.
I know that with most things like this, there is a tier system, meaning you're going to have some Secret Service agents who are better than others. But to be Secret Service, you have to be pretty good, right? You have to be high speed, low drag in general.
And Trump makes a lot of appearances.
Sure.
As a former president running again, he is a lot of different places at a lot of different times. That guy gets out.
Sure, he gets around.
So I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe whatever sniper was assigned to that area, probably gonna be in danger of having some kind of issue on his job.
So I already saw some stuff that I cannot verify as true. You know how it is when something like this happens. There's
Tons of information comes out.
All these things that pop out, and some of it's crap.
And when we're recording this, let's just say we're on Tuesday, July 16th. So by the time this episode releases, there might be a ton more info out there.
So one thing that I heard is that the counter sniper is actually police. And that guy had seen the kid on the roof.
Local police?
Local police.
Pittsburgh area police?
I think so.
Okay.
Had seen the dude on the roof, requested permission to shoot him, and was denied it. And that he subsequently fired once the incoming shots happened and has been fired from his job for taking the shot without authority. I don't know if that's true at all. It sounds real weird.
If he did, that's great. And,
smart decision.
Prevented more lives being lost, for sure.
Which is one of the things I was going to get into with this about, when you can use lethal force. But taking all that stuff aside, let's break down the two parts: the decision to secure the area and where they decided to secure, and then the decision to be very slow in moving Trump, which didn't have any negative consequences, right?
It didn't. No,
Physically, any negative physical
It had already
consequences.
happened.
It had already happened. It was over. But if there had been another shooter, and they let him stick his head out,
or do they know? Yeah, who knows if they had heard Tango down, whatever.
it doesn't matter. At that moment, that
I
was
agree.
seconds later. You don't know how many there are.
I agree. I just
Points
don't
to
know.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Oh, man.
Nobody thinks there was only one anymore.
I don't know. Sure, whatever.
Whatever.
Like,
Anyway,
it's been
So,
too long for that.
there's a case that we looked at. You want to talk about it? I sent you the link.
You sent me the link, Moss versus United Secret Service, United States Secret Service, where somebody actually did attempt to sue the Secret Service for a failure of security of sorts, right? I didn't look at the facts, so you tell me.
I can tell you about the facts. So there was an instance in, I think it was 2004, sorry, when former President George W. Bush was doing something in Oregon, and he had pro-Bush people,
And there were a lot of anti-Bush people.
and a lot of anti-Bush people. And so Secret Service said that the anti-Bush people seemed, bad, were making them nervous or whatever, so they directed the police in the area. And this is something I didn't realize. It makes sense, but I didn't realize that whenever they have an event like this, the Bush thing, the Trump thing, the Secret Service actually gets involved with the local police to use them, because they don't have the manpower sometimes.
They usually help them,
Sure.
motorcade places
Secret
too,
Service
right?
is, well, yeah, you've seen that, but I meant like they'll direct, like, hey, this is your area, whatever sheriff's department, you're going to do this, this, and this in that area. Go team. And in this instance, there were 250 peaceful demonstrators that they needed moved because they thought they were too close to where they were at. They said they posed a security risk. Basically, they were probably, getting a little bit too wily, saying some stuff. Nothing obviously actionable, but just stuff they were like, hey, we don't want to risk this. We need to move these guys.
But that's classic First Amendment, right? They have a
Sure, it is your First Amendment right. And that's the interesting thing, because then you also get into an issue of different treatment, right? Equal protection. You have to have that. And if because they did have a case, and this is completely separate, where they had protest zones. So that's not a violation of your First Amendment right to say you can't protest right here. You can protest down the street. You still get to protest. You're just not protesting right next to the event for this same reason.
But there has to be a calculation. It's
Right.
got to be the least restrictive means.
Sure. And so the police effort turned violent. Officers were in riot gear. They used batons,
Pepper spray.
less lethal munitions, chemical agents to move the multi-generational group of anti-Bush protesters.
There were young children there.
Yeah, the
even.
quote says, the police took things too far when they pushed protesters to use pepper spray and batons on the group that included families with young children. And the ACLU got involved. It went up to, what district? The United States District Court up there, the Ninth Circuit. They both held that the protesters were allowed to proceed, but what did the Supreme Court do? And when? What year?
2014. This is
10 years later?
Way later.
What? George W. Bush wasn't even president no more.
And these words that everybody hates, qualified immunity, come out.
Not a fan. What can you do?
That's the law until it changes, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so the same thing there was that it was a legitimate security rationale, which is fair. I mean, you look at it and you don't know if the fox is hiding in the chickens, and you got to move them all because you don't want it to be too close. I don't know if that's the saying. Something about the fox in the hen house. I don't know. We don't have foxes in Kansas, not really. Just coyotes. Give me a break.
all right. Only coyotes here in Las Vegas, too. So,
True, no foxes.
no foxes.
No raccoons, though. That's the weirdest thing to me. You guys don't have raccoons or possums.
Or possum. It's just too hot. It's a desert, baby. Got desert tortoises, though.
They're awesome. It took me 5 years to finally see one. I didn't touch it. It's against the rules. But I did take some pictures.
All right.
If you want to see, you can ask me later.
I don't want to talk about Donald J. Trump anymore.
Me neither. But, okay, so the thing here is I think the Secret Service would probably end up They would have qualified immunity from anything that they did to the people. I think that Trump wouldn't be able to sue them for the same thing. Now, the issue you get into is once he's the commander-in-chief, if he is again, or if the current commander-in-chief or future commander-in-chief says, hey, these guys screwed up, fired. They might not have a legal recourse, but they'll certainly have like an HR recourse. And I'm assuming several people have lost their jobs. I haven't watched everything, but I did see that the current Secret Service head did a couple of interviews on CNN, a couple other things, talking about how there was
failures.
There were some failures, and typically, whenever there are failures like this, you're going to end up with some heads rolling. Not literally speaking, but somebody's going to get fired.
It will teach us some things about how to make these things more secure and more
Correct.
safe, right? So,
And that's, I mean, it's important. It sucks we had to learn this way.
yeah.
It's better it wasn't. It's good that it wasn't any worse because it could have been much worse. I read something that said that dude had at least 50 rounds on him.
Really?
Yep. So thinking about it from just the perspective of how it could have gone, let's say he's more efficient, Jason Bourne or something, takes out the sniper team first, and then he can just do what he wants. And that could have been way, way worse. And I say that to say that you can prevent this by extending your perimeter, having someone on the roof. They don't have to be a counter sniper or whatever. It could be just a dude up there, a police officer, because there were police officers in the building. Let's say they had a rotating schedule, like fire watch. Austin's on the roof for 2 hours. You're on the roof for 2 hours. I'm on the roof for 2 hours. And we're not going to let anyone put a ladder on the roof and climb up on top of it. We're going to stop them if they try to do that. Real simple stuff that could have prevented this. I don't think that there'll be a suit, but it'll be interesting to see what happens and if they make any policy changes. I mean, that's how policies always change. It doesn't matter if it's this or if it's like we're eliminating some kind of product that's being sold. It's because, hey, we don't realize there's something wrong with it. Yeah. The dudes that made it, they did, and they're going to get sued later for that. But now we're going to fix it.
Sometimes a worst case situation can be an overall positive.
Right, the catalyst. So it sucks, and I feel awful.
Yeah, especially for the family that lost the
people
father.
That got hurt.
Yeah.
And I did see another video of a guy in the crowd, and it was funny because it was somebody trying to conspiracy theory it, and the bullet that went through the guy, I think it hit him in the shoulder, it exited.
Okay.
And so when a bullet exits somebody, you can see it. It sometimes, right, if there's a puff of what looks like smoke, it's probably just blood and tissue that's flying out with the bullet because an AR-15, depending upon what he's using, is flying at like 2,200 feet per second when it leaves the barrel.
Fast.
Real fast. Yep. There's a still that Austin just showed us. One of the cameras that was on the former president, they slowed it down massively, and you're actually able to see the bullet fly through. We'll put it on the camera. Perfect. You're actually able to see the bullet as it's going through the air. But that bullet at that point is still traveling 2,000 feet per second, which is fast. And so when it hits that person, it goes right through them, and it created a puff of something, whether it be shirt, tissue, whatever. And so the people that were watching it thought someone was shooting from the other direction, right? The whole
because they
second
see,
gun.
yeah,
they
what
think
you
it's
see on TV versus yeah.
But either way, I think it'll have a net positive where they will hopefully never allow anything like this to happen again, just merely by increasing the security perimeter. Yeah, it sucked.
All right, we have a specific time to talk about another one of these cases that is named after somebody, okay? Brady
versus Maryland?
Brady versus Maryland.
Woo.
Okay, so
You best be giving up that potentially exculpatory evidence, prosecutors. If not, they're going to get you.
This was in the news recently. Alec Baldwin. We talked about this a little bit.
I don't know if we've talked about it.
Off air.
I was in L.A. this weekend, and I went to Hollywood Forever, the cemetery, just looking around.
Yeah.
The two things I was hoping to see there, which I did see, were Judy Garland, shout out, and Toto. If you don't know who those people are, they were in an American Classic.
You were not in Kansas anymore when you saw it?
I was not in Kansas anymore when I saw it, but they were buried there. Well, Toto wasn't. It was a memorial because Toto's actual original grave was destroyed. They buried him or her, and then they constructed a highway after the person who owned the property died, and it destroyed it. But they made a monument there.
Okay.
Anyway, I was there to see that, and the gal that got shot by Baldwin is buried in that cemetery. Right across, like Toto's here. There's a little street that you can drive for getting, places in the cemetery. Right across next to Chris Cornell is that gal.
Were people there that day when you were there looking at hers?
People were walking around, yeah.
Okay.
Not a ton of people. It was actually really weird, and so we just went because my buddy Nick, he always thinks of random things for us to do when I go to LA, things I haven't seen. And he's like, oh, yeah, I went. It was kind of cool. Let's go check it out. But as we drive in, there's actually a funeral going on. So obviously we're super quiet. We drive straight to the back. We got away from it. That's up at the front, but it was super weird. And then there were a bunch of other people that were there, I think, just kind of scoping it out. There were people just like hanging out. It was kind of like a park because it's really nice. Like there's a lot of
And there's famous people
buildings
there.
Yeah, famous people. Saw a bunch of random ones, but Chris Cornell and then Tom Selleck. Like just,
Okay.
random ones. And then there's a whole bunch of people who I believe are just like, they were like well-to-do. They had
Money.
yeah, not just money, but like probably owned businesses or whatever.
Okay.
Lots of really interesting stuff, man. Big buildings, like ornate and like mausoleums. It was crazy. I don't really like that sort of stuff usually. I mean, it's not like I don't like it, but we just went to check it out, and then it turned out to be so interesting that I just walked around for like an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting place. But yeah, Toto.
Okay.
I don't know what I was talking about.
We were talking about Alec Baldwin.
Oh, that gal. Yeah, she was there. Guys, if you're ever handling a firearm, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a cap gun. Well, if it's plastic, it's incapable of firing a bullet. This does not apply to you. But if it is a weapon that is capable of firing a projectile that can kill a human being, do not point it at them. The rule of thumb is only point a firearm at something that you want to destroy. Basic. As an armorer, the person on set, that is your job. As Alec Baldwin, the dude with the pistol in his hand, be smarter. It is a dumb way to die.
That a woman lost her life due to failure, and we were just in Santa Fe like right before this happened too.
Yeah,
because we had
NJA.
a conference there. Me and Justin did, and so we had just been in Santa Fe, and it's kind of a cowboy town. It was a cool city. I thought it was pretty cool.
Pretty neat.
Had some interesting stuff there. The oldest church in the United States. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why would it not be in like Plymouth?
I don't know, because Native Americans, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It was. I went in it and was like, oh, cool. Everything's made out of clay. Ton of clay buildings.
It's like that red brick stuff.
Yeah. So
That's neat.
we were just there like less than a month before it happened, and then they were filming outside of Santa Fe area, I think, for this film.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at where it was and I was like, oh, we were pretty dang close. So
Wild.
So, all
We
right,
weren't there.
back to Alec Baldwin. This case, they filed against a ton of people for a ton of different crimes.
His got dismissed though, didn't it?
That's what we're talking about. It got dismissed because of a Brady violation.
So let's talk about Brady.
So, do you want to tell us what Brady is?
Yeah, I'll give you just like
The elements are right there too. There are 3 elements to it.
So the prosecution has to give up evidence. Lawyering generally isn't like movies, like Suits, where there's some scene where they're in trial and they're all sitting there and someone will walk in the courtroom. I got the evidence. Case dismissed. No, that's not how it goes. Sometimes evidence does come up in the 11th hour, but very rarely. And if so, someone's going to get in trouble and there's going to be a whole to-do about it. What really happens in the criminal sense or in the civil sense, you have your packet of evidence, which is everything you expect to show your case, and I have mine. Let's say you're the prosecution. You have to give it all to me. In fact, you have to give yours to me before I have to give mine to you. And in Brady, they said that the evidence at issue must be favorable to the accused, either because it is exculpatory, which means it's going to prove their innocence potentially, like an alibi or something like that. For example, if in Alec Baldwin's case, there's a video of him on the other side of the set where the gal got shot at the moment that she got shot, doing something else, the prosecution would have to give that video up because it shows, hey, he wasn't there when it happened, so he couldn't possibly have done it. Or because it is impeaching. Impeaching means that you are basically attacking the story of the other people. For example, you have a police officer who's the primary investigator in a case, a drug case. And then after he arrests your client, 6 months later, he gets caught planting drugs on people, which happens. That calls into question every single case that he investigated before. That is impeachment evidence, and the prosecution has to provide it to the defense. Second element, the evidence must have been suppressed by the state, either willfully or inadvertently, meaning they didn't give it to you.
Doesn't have to even be willful.
No, it can be accidental.
Inadvertently.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's good. That's a good reason. And then prejudice must have ensued.
And that can even be slight.
Yep, that's a low bar. That's a low bar. But the reason being, because the state is supposed to wear the white hat. The idea when you're taking somebody's liberty is you are only doing it in the exact right way. Right? All the boxes
100% correct.
100% correct. Well, 100% correct in how you do it, how you do the prosecution, the things that you do. The burden is not 100%. The burden is beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
So I just want people to be very clear. That's not what we're saying. When people get convicted, it's not 100% that they were convicted. It's just the jury believed that.
It's supposed to be, beyond a reasonable doubt. Nobody has any doubt that this person did this crime. Correct. And all the evidence was collected in the right way. And if there's any evidence that would have helped the defendant, we gave it to you. So the prosecution has to give everything. They cannot make mistakes. And in Alec Baldwin's case, this video was interesting because they have a private attorney who's hired as a special prosecutor in the case, because sometimes the city, county, state can do that. Sometimes they don't have enough cases, so they don't have an actual government prosecutor, or it could be a special assignment. This case is going to take all of our resources.
You could sap
we're going to hire somebody outside. And there were a number of prosecutors who had ran kind of through this case and people that had helped this special prosecutor. So during the trial, they had started trial, and the fact that this case got to trial is kind of crazy. It was Alec Baldwin was trying to put, he wanted to show his innocence, I guess, by pushing this forward to trial. He didn't take any deals. The public doesn't always know what the offer deals are. I haven't seen anything about any offer deals that he got before going to trial. So this case is in trial. A jury had been seated. The case had started, and when a jury's seated, double jeopardy attaches. So
correct.
This has to be the case. It has to be done right. All the evidence should have been provided previously so that the defense, if they have evidence that helps them, they can do their own investigation. When their lawyer's starting trial, there is no time to go out and investigate. You are in trial. There is nothing else. When we're in trial, there's all of our other cases get put on pause because
our families, our social lives, everything.
We are in trial.
You're working 16 hours a day.
Yes, and then
minimum.
Minimum. And in trial sometimes you're thinking about it as you sleep, and you can't sleep either. So it could be more than 16-hour days. Anyway, this lawyer's in trial, and he finds out, wow, there's something that wasn't disclosed to us. So there was something that was made on a police report, and maybe because they had a special prosecutor, she didn't understand that this police report wouldn't attach to all of the cases because there were multiple criminal cases. So for whatever reason, this specific police report about some specific bullets was not attached to Alec Baldwin's case and therefore not produced to him. So the defense finds out about it, makes a motion during trial saying, hey,
for a mistrial,
we are moving to have this dismissed with prejudice, and with prejudice means never to be brought again. It goes away forever. Without prejudice means it could be brought again. So with prejudice, going away forever. So they make that motion, they argue it, and then the prosecutor, in response to that motion, decides to call herself as a witness. Yeah, you didn't see this? Prosecutor calls herself as a witness, and the judge, and there was some conversation, the judge said, I know I said previously I wanted to hear more from you on this, but I'm not sure if you should take the stand. The court is not telling you need to take the stand. And the special prosecutor said, no, I want to put the truth out there, so I'm going to take the stand. So
Who examined her? Or did she just get
herself.
up there and...
Narrative. So we talked about pro se litigants. If they waive their fifth and they start testifying, if you call yourself as a witness, you just start talking. You just start telling a story. So
Well, what had happened was...
so this is a type of evidentiary hearing, which is the judge is just looking at evidence if somebody's trying to present evidence.
or the jury gets pulled out of the room. They're probably put back in the jury room.
Jury's gone. So the prosecutor gets on the stand. She's showing stuff on her laptop saying, these bullets were different, so I didn't think it had anything to do with the case. And so I just kind of forgot about it.
And I forgot about
and
the
I
rules.
didn't know that this report. And so she did not make it clear if her argument was, hey, this is not actually prejudicial.
Or
this isn't exculpatory. This isn't exculpatory evidence. I mean, anything that could even slightly help the defense that a jury could attach to and say, that's the one piece. There are so many ways for a defense lawyer to attack. If they don't meet every single element of the crime, if they don't meet one, but they meet 2, 3, and 4, and you need all 4, case is done.
And here's the thing.
If they don't meet any single... So any slight evidence that could have helped the case after seating a jury...
Element number 2, the evidence was suppressed by the state willfully or inadvertently, obviously checked. It was an accident. Prejudice ensued. Well, that's really easy to say. You could say I didn't have the ability to investigate this. I couldn't get an expert. I didn't have the opportunity to mount a defense to this particular thing, a mounted defense based on this particular thing. So the only element that the prosecutor needed to deal with is the first one. Right? Because they're screwed.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that the bullets, since they're different, probably showed either mistake or something like this.
And we have to go with the base that this is a new case. All evidence of prior cases, prior trials does not matter for Alec Baldwin. The prosecution has to prove these elements again. Handling of this specific round, that he had knowledge or he's negligent. They have to prove it from nothing. This is a new jury. They don't get to bring up, okay, we proved this in a prior case against another defendant. No, you have a right to face your trial and your evidence presented in this case specifically.
And when a jury hears that there's, prior trials or whatever and people have been convicted, it's hyper prejudicial.
Yeah.
Because then their brains just shut off. They're like, oh, he's guilty. Forget it.
And I guess we don't know if they were told anything that was, limited out. I would guess it was, completely excluded because that would set something off on the mind of the jury. So this is probably completely out. So we're looking at this as a base, not, hey, they proved that, that bullet didn't matter in this case. No. Would Alec Baldwin have had a chance to say or argue in the slightest, and would any member of the jury, any single one, think something that would cause them doubt to find him not guilty? The judge did an oral order. She'll write up a written order that'll be very lengthy because this might be something that gets appealed and, they might try to do another trial. Who knows? But as of this point, the case is dismissed with prejudice. And one thing I want to point out with this, Justin, is sometimes our criminal defendants do not appreciate how stressful a trial is when they are facing time behind bars. And Alec Baldwin was on camera when the judge announced, I am dismissing this case with prejudice, and he breaks down and just starts crying and crying.
He's an actor.
This has to be legitimate.
I'm kidding.
And then his wife, he embraces his attorney, who did an excellent job. The attorney got to cross-examine her, too, after she gave her narrative, which, love watching that.
Give me that.
Love watching that.
Just hooks to the body, right? The liver shot. Oh, my goodness.
And part of it is, I don't know if I should say this.
You know what I'm talking about.
This is a quote. I'll tell you, we might cut this out, but
whatever.
So he asked her, you don't like Alec Baldwin, do you? And she said, no, I appreciate his politics and his movies. He's a great actor. And then
that's not the question I asked you.
That's not the question I asked you. And then he immediately goes, well, we'll preface this. We'll say, both the prosecution and the defense can interview independent witnesses before the case, right? Before trial to see what they're going to say, okay? He says, did you tell one of the witnesses that you thought that he was a that you thought Alec Baldwin was a And she pauses and goes, well, I don't know which specific witness, who, what,
Yep.
what are you?
Yes, I did.
So she doesn't, and maybe this doesn't have anything to do with the case, right? At that point, but she's like, well, tell me who it was. Well, no, that's not the question. Did you tell any of them? Which is a legitimate question.
Sure.
Did you tell? It's trying to show her bias, saying, hey, she's going after this guy because she doesn't like him.
He's highlighting his argument he's going to make, which is that, hey, she willfully did this.
Yeah.
Because it's bad evidence, which that's exactly what happened in Brady versus Maryland. They hid exculpatory evidence. The prosecution didn't give it up. They're just like, man, we don't like this stuff. It makes our case weaker. We really want to convict this guy. Fuck it. Let's go. Full send, boys.
So that case got dismissed with prejudice. Could be appealed to the New Mexico Supreme Court. Maybe not.
No, it won't be.
I don't think the prosecution will elect to.
I can't imagine they will.
I don't think that they'll appeal it. I think they'll be done because then they just have another chance of being laughed at.
But they're also it's a waste of time and money. And there are very clear rules, right? This isn't something where it's like some gray area. You have evidence that is potentially exculpatory. You didn't give over.
Well, potentially it has to be exculpatory. So that would be their only argument,
Right,
is this specific evidence was not actually exculpatory. It wouldn't have helped. There was no prejudice. But
I mean, the argument with any evidence is that it's exculpatory because it shows this, this, and this, which undercuts an element. So all you have to do is to tie the evidence to one of the elements, and you're good to go.
Yep.
It's not dispositive. It just means that you can make the argument. It's not like it's not saying that the jury would absolutely have found him innocent. It's just I can tie this in a way. That's the reason I like Brady as a defense attorney, is you can really get creative with your arguments, and as long as you can articulate something that's somewhat reasonable.
You have to have a document specifically that was not given to you, though. So
and they have that.
They did have that here, where you don't always have that. This is a tougher thing to find. You have to know of a document, and luckily there was something that came out maybe from the transcripts of the other trials that they saw.
And that's the unfortunate.
Hey, this isn't in this, and you don't have to disclose that early. Say, hey, prosecution, you didn't give us this, right? Mm-hmm. So
that's the unfortunate thing, though, is that you really don't know. It's an unknown unknown. The whole, and I hate saying it because Donald Rumsfeld said that, but it's so funny and it's so true. Unknown unknowns.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. I don't know what's on the roof right now. Might be nothing, but it also might be a squirrel.
Yeah.
Right? Could be. Who can tell? Does double jeopardy happen often, and has it happened anywhere else recently that's popular? Shane?
There is a question of double jeopardy now. We had some Young Thug news, which we love talking about Young Thug.
Shane loves Young Thug.
And we learned some more information about YSL and what it stands for. Me and you were talking about this. We're not too much in the rap scene, me and you.
I mean, I like a lot of rap. Shout out Suicide Boys.
I listen to 90s, 2000s, R&B rap, but not much of the new
rap.
stuff. R&B/rap.
Like baby making music? Is that why you have 5 kids? You just got R. Kelly on all the time or whatever? Or wait, what's
Biggie Smalls, baby.
Okay, that's what you get down to?
So YSL
Stands for
Young
Stoner Life.
Young Stoner Life, the record label, but prosecution's trying to push that it also stands for something else.
Young Slime Life.
Young Slime Life.
I thought that was just like a bumper sticker they were using for their case. Not that that's actually what it means.
No, they're saying that this is kind of like the gang side of things,
The moniker for their gang.
Yeah, for the thing that under the RICO Act, this racketeering group. So
we're the Young Slimes.
So just recently,
We're gonna have a dance battle in Harlem.
The day before today that we're recording,
Rockets and the Dragons. Right? What's that movie? From the 50s. It's like they sing a lot. What am I thinking of?
Newsies?
I don't know. It's something like that. It's like a musical. It's very iconic. One of them's like the Dragons, one's the Rockets or
I
something.
thought it was the Sharks and the Jets.
Sharks and the Jets. What's that?
West Side Story.
That's it. That's the one I'm thinking of. West Side Story. Whatever.
Is it Sharks and the Jets?
Whatever. That one.
2 hockey teams.
Yeah. I hate myself. I forget stuff sometimes.
You remember that video we watched of that one attorney that was just totally blitzed out of his mind?
At least I'm not hammered. I can form full sentences and I'm not slurring my words.
Yeah. Well,
My brain is like a squirrel sometimes.
you saw the Decemberists this weekend. Awesome concert.
So good.
You had
So
fun.
good.
All right. Zone in.
Go to the Bellwether. If you're in LA and you want to see a concert, go to the Bellwether. It was just made a couple months ago. Awesome. One of the best venues I've ever been to.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Shout out Bellwether.
Heck yeah.
Super duper.
And shout out Decemberists. Colin, you crushed it. I waited 15 years to see that. It was everything I thought it could be.
Nice. Some of us saw the Decemberists back in 2006. They had fewer albums back then.
Yeah,
but,
they got a much bigger catalog now.
Yeah. No,
Anyway.
I had fun. Saw them at a festival here in Las Vegas.
This is like
Tons of fun.
this is the ADD episode. Like we're just going.
There's a light.
Oh, okay.
What? Vegas?
Vegas.
When were you born?
2007.
What? 97? Yeah, you were 9 years old, dude.
You were already banging at that point, weren't you?
It was.
No, not like that. You fucking pervert. No, cut this part out.
We saw Arcade Fire, Flaming Lips,
Toothpaste
Decemberists, Spoon, Ween.
Ween sucks.
All right, if it's not your stuff, it's not your stuff. Devendra Banhart, you listen to him? Yeah. I really like him.
There's a bunch of good stuff there,
That was
though.
a good one.
All those festivals are a lot of fun. But this one, they had a band called Rat Boys open for them, which is fronted by a girl, which is strange. My favorite part about that band, they had a song called Elvis is in the Freezer. And so what she would do when she would talk about these songs that they're getting ready to sing is she'd kind of explain, hey, this is a song about this, because they're tuning their guitars or whatever. And she's like, this is a song about my cat that died. And what happened is she went to college, and her cat that she had, because like the family got the cat, but you know how when you get a pet, sometimes it kind of gravitates toward one.
Sure.
It's her cat.
Okay.
Well, it dies when she's at college, and her mom, they had to put it down. So her mom wanted to wait till she got back for Christmas break to be able to bury it because she knew it was important to her. So she calls her and she's like, yeah, your cat died. I'm sorry, but I put him in the freezer for you so when you get back. And it's literally Elvis is in the freezer because Elvis was her cat. Oh. And she buried him when she got home. It was wild. It was so much fun.
I saw a better band, 100 Gex. We've talked about 100 Gex with Austin. I got to show you some of their stuff.
Please, I don't know who that is.
Oh, they're so good. So bad they're good.
No.
They're so good.
That's not a thing.
I saw them at a festival recently, and it was an experience.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Okay.
Doritos. They have a song about Doritos and Pepsi.
I love Pepsi and Doritos. Which kind? Cooler Ranch?
I'll have to listen to
It
the
better be
song
Cooler
again.
Ranch.
It's hard to listen to.
Sounds great. Sounds like some music I'm going to love to hear.
So bad. I ironically love them now. So
No, we're not hipsters in this place.
All right, so Young Thug, his attorney had filed a motion to recuse the judge. Recuse means get that judge out of here.
Because he's
Give us a new judge.
biased.
Because of the whole thing that he had a secret conversation, ex parte communication with a witness and the other
some
attorney.
pretty serious stuff.
And then, as we recall, he sent the attorney that was questioning it to jail. Well, he
ordered him to jail. He didn't send
He
him to jail.
intended him.
Which was overturned immediately.
Well, it was paused. I don't know where that's at now.
I thought there was a writ and it was denied. Or it was granted in
Not yet. It was pending. Yeah, usually appeals courts take a long time to look at things. So, one thing I wanted to talk about that's just surprising is we have here in Clark County, there's a small subgroup of judges. There's very few of them. In fact, 2 of them are married to each other in Clark County District Court, Eric Johnson and Susan Johnson.
Oh, well, you're saying subset. I'm like, what are you talking about? Okay,
No, I'm
district
just
court
saying
judges.
there's a small group.
Sure.
And-
Eric and Susan Johnson both have their own respective district court. They don't.
No, they don't share. But these judges are friends. They talk to each other. When you practice in law, sometimes you practice in something specific. But then when you become a state court judge, sometimes you hear all sorts of cases.
All kinds of cases. True.
all kinds of cases, because federal court is a limited jurisdiction, which means they only hear specific kinds of things. So in this young thug case, and I just want to point out the picture that some of these judges talk to each other, they're friends, they bounce off ideas of law. Hey, I know you practice in X area of law before. What was your experience with this? I got a motion in front of me now. Or, hey, I know you practiced in Y area of law. What do you know about that? So some of the judges are friends. You know, they talk, they compare notes. They see, hey, my docket's really busy. Could you, take over this case for me?
Also, they're law clerks. Their law clerks are friends with each other.
They're
The
law
clerk is
clerks.
assisting the judge.
Law clerks are law students or graduated law students who might have taken the bar, might be lawyers.
Yeah, most of them, I think.
Most of them have passed the bar, who assist the judge for a year, 2 years, multiple years before getting into kind of a real job to see how it works behind the scenes. So the law clerks help a lot in researching.
A real job. Cut that part.
No, not a real job. Sorry, like an actual representing people, actually representing people. Not saying it's not a real job. My bad. We love all of our law clerks, but before they step out in representation land, I guess, to represent people. So they see behind the scenes. They're doing the research for the judges on maybe something they haven't seen before. They're looking at the other case law, whatever's cited in these briefs, kind of helping the judge make a decision. I say that because when a motion to recuse is filed against one judge, it's not just like a random person, judging that. It's a person who knows the judge, knows, hey, the representations you're making in this motion, I find hard to believe because I know this guy, I know this girl. So sometimes when you're facing these motions, and this order I saw yesterday from the judge actually ordering recusal and moving it to another judge, it's never quite harsh. And this one was not harsh on the judge. He was not blamed for having had that meeting, but more blamed for the response afterward. She didn't go hard after him either. She didn't say that he did anything patently wrong. Just
You didn't violate any rules, obviously.
for this case, it would be best to be pushed to another judge.
Yes.
And so,
However,
we go ahead.
we've already started trial.
We've already started trial. So there can be instances where a judge is incapacitated in the middle of a trial, and there would need to be another judge placed on the case.
Like they need to take a nap?
Or a long nap. What if a judge dies in a case? The case just doesn't go away, right?
I would imagine you just put a new judge in and pick right back up, because there's going to be no prejudice, because it's all just evidentiary rulings and things, because the jury is the fact finder. Now, if it was a bench trial, completely different story.
They'd probably just restart trial, yeah.
Yeah, but that brings.
Are you saying a bench trial criminal? Well,
like Sam saying with that murder?
Yeah.
What if that judge would have died on day 2?
Well, everything's recorded, right? When you start trial, everything is recorded for somebody to go back and read, right? So
That's true. But
and here now we have the benefit of we have recording, TV recording of all hearings. I've gone back, ordered some to see. Okay, hang on. What did the judge exactly say? What was her tone, so I can write this order correctly? So you can go back and see the recorded footage. It's not expensive at all. It's like $20 for an hour, something super cheap. So it's super easy to go back and look. I'm not convinced that double jeopardy will apply here. I would guess that this case is just going to get moved forward. It was already scheduled to be a super long case.
sure.
But there might be some problem of some jury members hearing about, hey, this is the real reason why our judge is no longer our judge. So there's always a question of, hey, we have these things happen behind the scenes, but how do we tell the jury what happened? What instructions are they given? Are they going to say, well, the judge is incapacitated, he's no longer going to be our judge, or this judge acted improperly? I don't think that they'd ever hear something like the judge acted improperly, but this will be now going to a new judge, a case that's been going on for 9 months now, something like that. That's scheduled to continue for who knows how much longer. They don't have an exact schedule, just an idea of how many more witnesses they're going to be calling in this RICO case. So this is going to undoubtedly change the outlook of this case. And that judge was not sitting in the courtroom for everything that happened. So she or he, whoever the new assigned judge, will have to watch all of the testimony. We'll have to read through all the transcripts for the weeks and weeks and weeks of the case that have already happened. Right. So this is an insane development, but double jeopardy does attach as soon as a jury is seated and selected after jury selection is done, correct? Voir dire. People say that different ways.
Voir dire.
People say that different ways. It's Latin, and so
voir dire.
Voir dire.
Voir dire.
Yeah, so we just kind of make up.
They took your jobs.
How much time do we have left, Austin?
Too much. Let's do the listener
We're going to
question.
cut out about 15 minutes of what we've done so far. So, listener question sucks. Who did this one?
Who did this listener question?
Oh, we'll do the felons and firearms later, huh?
Yeah, please.
That'll be a good.
We'll need to break that down.
That'll be a good one.
That could possibly be a whole episode.
Do you want to talk about the Arkansas man suing Las
No,
Vegas
let's not do
Dancing?
that yet. Let's just do the listener question. Get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm gonna die.
All right. Hey, Tangled writes, if a time traveler committed a crime in the past and then returned to the present, could they still be prosecuted? Also, how would you handle their alibi from another century?
So the question I have is, what's the time difference here? What are we talking about?
Who submitted this question? Let's see. Austin, do you know who submitted this question?
It's an anonymous question, but I'll just answer for them. Let's say 30 years is the time difference.
30 years? Okay.
So normally when we look at laws, we look at, hey, what's on the books? What are the statutes, or what is the case law? And the case law means what are the prior appellate decisions? Because when an appellate decision comes out, it instructs us how to deal with future cases. And usually they give us these kind of tests, like we were talking about Brady. It tells you, hey, next time this happens, look at element 1, 2, and 3, and this is how you should judge it next time. So these, we look for the history, we look for the statutes, and then the case law that might have to deal with this. So what case law is there on time travel?
None. Another sub question. Are we presupposing that there's no special rules? It's just the rules as we use them now? Okay, so you got a couple issues. One, the case will be cold, so the time traveler presumably won't be able to be identified, right? Let's say that they live in a different place. They go and they shoot somebody on camera, and then they're gone, right? But that person is from 30 years in the future. Let's say they're only 25. They're not even born yet, right? They don't have anybody to look at. So there's going to be a ton of issues with that. The case is going to disappear. They're probably not going to get prosecuted. But let's say that they somehow find out that this person did do it. The law doesn't say, are you from now? It just says, like, let's use the shooting example, intentional killing another human being, malice aforethought. If you came back, you killed him, malice aforethought, theoretically, you'd be able to be prosecuted in your time for what you did, especially if there's no statute of limitations. Murder, there is no statute of limitations on that, and I think any jurisdiction.
Let me ask you a supplemental question about a statute of limitations. Can they be extended? We call them tolled in the legal realm.
Yes.
Can they be extended?
They can.
And what are the bases that they can be extended?
So Kansas just did one recently where they changed it. The statute of limitations in like sex assault cases. Used to be in Kansas, it was 10 years from the date of majority. What that means is once somebody turns 18, like let's say they were assaulted when they were a minor, they're 5, 10, they have 10 years from the time that they're 18 for the person to be brought to justice. Now it's indefinite. So that's a tolling statute,
But
right?
that's illegal.
I understand, but that 10-year period is a tolling.
Yes,
Because
but that's a statutory tolling, not a a discovery, the discovery rule.
Oh,
let's say
they didn't know that. Yeah, they didn't have evidence, right? They just know a crime was committed and they don't have any evidence, and then they find out, in year 5. Well, at that point, once everything's brought to light, like let's say they didn't know somebody was murdered, you just disappear, right? Or not murdered. That's not a good one because the statute of limitations is indefinite. Let's say you were robbed and then subsequently murdered.
Let's say you were robbed of your secret vault that you don't check for 50 years.
Right. Okay, that's a better one. You go to check for the vault, it's gone. At that point, you have your 2-year, 3-year statute of limitations, whatever it is, because it's from discovery, right? And a lot of the statute of limitations, even in civil cases, it's discovery when you should or reasonably should have known. Now, there's going to be an argument to be made that if you don't check a vault for 20 years, kind of on you. Somebody's going to make that argument, guaranteed.
Yes.
But I don't know if that necessarily holds water. So there are situations where, let's say the person goes back to a crime, they steal something rather than kill somebody from a museum. The museum doesn't find out about it. They report it. Turns out he left a fingerprint. So they report it a year before the guy goes back to steal it in time. They run the fingerprint. They find out it was him. Then they find out that he actually did it. Here's the interesting part. He theoretically did it before, but also after, because he went back in time a year after they discover it, but he committed the crime 20 years before they find it out. Right? Isn't that weird? This is what it's like being a lawyer. Don't.
What a question.
It's fun. Yes, I think he can still be prosecuted. How would I handle the alibi?
I think that they'll find a way to have an exception.
Sure.
Let's say that time travel exists and you try and, jump, and they believe that this time travel exists and they believe that you transported time.
That's the
they will find a way to prosecute you. The rules are intended to be fair. So if you're unfairly doing something, they can maybe read in an exception or make a law that is an exception.
Yes.
So
Austin travels through time, stealing people's backpacks.
He's a backpack stealer.
Watch out. He'll get again you.
What?
He'll get up again you.
Get up. What is it?
You don't say this?
No.
Ask somebody from Kansas. They'll tell you what it means.
It
means to get up against you, steal your bag.
Thanks, guys. Thanks to all the listeners of Tangled Rights. Please submit. We're looking for more guests.
Please,
We're looking
questions
for
also that are good. Austin.
more actual legal topics that would be fun. Awesome. Thanks, you guys.